So good evening, everybody. It's a pleasure to be with you online, coming to you from Congregation Bethel, where we meet every week at 7:30 p.m. Wanted to share just a quick idea. Next week at this time, we will be at the second evening of Rosh Hashanah. Second evening of Rosh Hashanah. And Rosh Hashanah, as we know, is a day of judgment. Rosh Hashanah is an important day for us to get into the frame of mind of what life is really about. What are we really living for? It's a day of judgment. It's a pretty serious time. Our sages tell us that on Rosh Hashanah we pass by the Almighty, Kivnei Marom. And there are three different opinions as to what Marom means. All of the different opinions refer to a group being narrowed through a funnel that one by one pass by. You know, when they count their sheep to give a tithe, right? So every 10th would get a red stripe. But how would they do it? They have 300 sheep, so they would pass them through a narrow way. And that's called marom. It would go from a wide space to a narrow space, one at a time. 1, 2, 3, 4. The 10th one would give a stripe. So our sages tell us that when we stand in front of the Almighty, we're standing in front of the Almighty just like those sheep, just like them, that they are one at a time. We are being judged one at a time. And our sages tell us the most important thing about Rosh Hashanah is to recognize that there's no herd mentality. You see, what people think in the world we live in today is that as long as I do what everyone else does, I'm fine. Right? I'm safe. Everyone does that, or everyone does this. So it's like, as long as I'm doing what everyone else does, that's fine. But does everybody have the same talents, the same skills as you? No. So why did God give you unique talents? Why did God give you special abilities that He didn't give to anybody else? It says that just as their faces are different, their opinions are different, and so are their responsibilities different. Our responsibilities are very different. So by just saying, well, I'm just like somebody else, I'm just like everybody else, that's not what the Almighty wants from us. The Almighty wants individuals. The Almighty wants us to be the greatest you can be. And that's that's what we see throughout the theme of Rosh Hashanah is individual responsibility. We're living in a culture where do we go along to get along, or this new thing that's called groupthink, right? It's this whole concept of like collective thinking. It's great. It's important. We should think, out loud, talk it, discuss it, make sure that. But it's very different than action. If your child did something that's not on the good side of things, right? And you ask your child, why did you do it? Well, everyone did it. How pleased would you be with that answer? Not at all, right? What do you mean everyone did it? What's about you? Why don't you think for yourself? Many times we get locked in because of that herd mentality. Well, everyone's doing it, so it's got to be the right thing. You know who capitalizes on this? The great tech companies, like Apple. You have to have it. So, as a result, people are waiting around the corner. Before that new iPhone 8 comes out, everyone will be waiting around the corner. It's like they've never touched a phone before. Why? Because there's this herd mentality. We all have to do it. Everyone has to do it. What's about thinking as an individual? What's about thinking independently? What Rosh Hashanah is about is taking individual responsibility. I am responsible for my actions. Not for anyone else's actions, not excusing it by, well, everyone did it, but rather, it's like, imagine you go to a judge, the judge says, did you cheat on your taxes? Right? We see over here that it doesn't, this discrepancy. Well, everybody did it. Right? That's not a good response. You have to take responsibility for yourself. And not to cast it off as like, this is what's done, this is what everyone's doing. Is it right or is it wrong? And we need to ask ourselves that question every day. This is what we discuss in these classes. Almost every single week. What is right and what is wrong? And where do I stand on this specific issue? Well, what everyone else thinks is what I'll do. Well, maybe they're wrong. We see that many times the majority has been wrong. Where's your independent thinking? Where's the independent thinking? Where's the independent action, the independent responsibility? So when it says that we pass in front of the Almighty, kivnei marom, we pass by the Almighty in judgment on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur as an individual, not as a group. We will be judged as an individual for how much you as an individual accomplished, but we'll also be judged as an individual of how much you've done for the public. Our sages tell us a very interesting trick to get a good judgment on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. Be a public person. And now we're not talking about be a politician. The ethics of our fathers, right, Pirkei Avot tells us to run far from that. But to be a person who the public needs. Because it says like this. It's a very interesting idea on how the judgment of God works. When someone passes away, you know who gets judged whether they should live or die? Not only the person who's going to live or die. All of the people that will be affected by that person's life and or passing, all of those people will also be affected by it. So our sages tell us that the more a person becomes a person of Klal Yisrael, the more they become a person of the greater public, the bigger that judgment would have to pass through so many different people. Is this one deserving of that pain? Is that one deserving of that challenge? So you know what? We got to keep this person around.
That's interesting.
Right? It's a good reason to always be involved in acts of kindness. When you're involved in acts of kindness with a community, like we've seen here in the most amazing way, we just discussed this here in Houston after the hurricane. And we still see on a daily basis the most incredible commitment and dedication of a community to helping one another. It brings so much more positive will to our judgment on Rosh Hashanah. The more acts of kindness we can do. The more goodness we can bestow onto other people. And those people need us. Right? It's a greater likelihood that we will succeed in that judgment. But it all stems from what we spoke about earlier. Being an individual. We must be an individual. Think, what is right for me? Is this the right thing for me to do? I know everyone's doing it. Fine. Does that mean that that's the right thing to do? And we should applaud it. We should applaud it when we see in our children independent thinking. And we should applaud it with our friends when we see independent thinking. It doesn't mean that they have to be conspiracy theorists. That's usually what people think. Oh, he's an independent thinker. He probably believes that this and that, whatever conspiracy theory they're behind. Really what it needs to be is we need to think and be responsible for our actions as individuals. If we are to go into judgment before the Almighty asks, so, did you dedicate your time to the study of Torah? Did you dedicate your time to acts of kindness? Did you? Well, I just did what everybody did. Everyone was watching that show. Everyone was doing this. Why did I give you life? I gave you life because you have so much ability to accomplish. You could have done that act of kindness. Why didn't you do it? Right? And so every opportunity we have to really make a very serious evaluation. Am I doing the right thing for me? Not in a selfish way. God gave me skills. God gave me talents. Maybe I'm not pushing myself enough, because you can't use other people as a barometer for your success. You know, it's you ask someone who has you know, you have people who love to do acts of kindness. They're always running to do acts of kindness. Not everyone does it kindness like that. Some people, it's like, okay, if I'm guilted, I'll do it. Right? If you pester me enough, I'll do it. And if you will go and ask those people who will run to find opportunities to do kindness, they'll tell you, I'm just like everybody else. Right? And they may feel like they're like everybody else. According to their abilities, they may feel insignificant, not sufficiently fulfilling their quota of what God expects from them. Think of it like this. If God gave one of us here an unbelievable skill of writing, and instead of accomplishing what we need to write a book, write a commentary, instead, we just write like everybody else. We write an essay. We write, whatever. I'm a simple guy. I don't need to do it. Right? God gave you a tremendous skill. Why don't you use it? Just like everybody else. You're not like everybody else. You're greater than everybody else. Because you're you. You are the only you there will ever be in the world. There will never be a composite, a mixture of qualities and flaws like you. Ever. There never will, there never was, and there never will be. You're the only you. Only you can maximize you. And that's our responsibility. We're coming on Rosh Hashanah. We say, God, give us another year of life. God's the investor. You're saying, I want an investment. I gave you an investment of 365 days extension to your life. And what did you accomplish with that? So you go back to your investor and you say to your investor, right, give me another 365 days. What do you mean? What did you do the past 365 days? You blew it, right? I gave you the opportunity, and perhaps we squandered it. So that's the fear. The fear of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur is, am I really living up to my expectations of myself? Of God's expectation of me. Not my neighbors, not my friends, not my parents, not me. I'm the only one who has to be accountable to me.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Okay. It's my understanding that, I don't know exactly how to explain this, but the purpose of the fear of God is to get to the love of God.
Right.
That fear is the sort of the precursor to love.
Okay. So we're going to get to that in 1 minute. I just want to sign off here with our friends here and wish them a happy New Year. No, it's okay. We're going to get to that question in 1 second. So, to our dear friends all around the world, I want to thank you very much for joining us. Have a Shana Tova Umituka. Have a sweet New Year. It's just a week away. It's unbelievable that Rosh Hashanah is next week. You should have a year which is filled with health and success and happiness. And God willing, tomorrow we have a Talmud lunch and learn. It's going to be at Genesis Steakhouse at 12 o'clock because, again, the Torch Center is still not back to itself. And I look forward to seeing all y'all there. And hopefully we'll be back in Jerusalem with a rebuilt temple speedily in our days. And this coming year should be a year of unbelievable success for everyone. And especially all of our brethren all across the world. We should all find our way back home to Jerusalem. Thank you very much for joining us, and have a wonderful Shabbos, everybody.